All right, Sting's final match takes place on Sunday. AEW Revolution. We know now it will be Sting and Darby Allin teaming up to defend the AEW Tag Team Championships against the Young Bucks, the executive EVP version of Matthew and Nicolas Jackson here in this match. And of course, we had the final time Sting descending from the rafters on AEW Dynamite, the bats, all the different callbacks we saw kind of in all those little segments that they had on the Go Home edition of Dynamite before Sunday's pay-per-view. And still, we asked the question, and it's one that people have been asking for quite a while now. Who will win this match? Will Sting go out a victor in his final match as they do this? And will that mean that he retires as a tag team champion? Or do the Young Bucks get all the heat that you could get by defeating Sting in his final match? How will it unfold? I think this is a very interesting dynamic because there's two schools of thought here as you look at this. Wrestling, we know, over the years and going way back in the day, right? It's always been about how do you draw the heat? It's how do you get the most heat out of something, right? The angle, the storyline, whatever it is. How do you get the fans so invested that they just want to tear the heels apart and do anything they could possibly do for the babyface? Like, that has always been the school of thinking in professional wrestling. It's why it's, as entertaining as it is and how it's easy to get as invested as it is in stories and characters and all this. Like, this is the ultimate setup for that because you've got so many people out there that can't look at this and say this is Sting's final match, and you can't possibly have him lose to the Young Bucks, who we know too can be very polarizing for people. There's certainly Young Bucks fans. There's certainly on the flip side of that, a lot of people that don't necessarily care for the Young Bucks or their style. However you want to draw it up. This is nothing new. People have talked about this for years now. But the fact that they are the final opponents for Sting in this match, we know this is it for Sting. It's professional wrestling. People unretire all the time, but this is a different scenario, right? It's not Sting retiring when he's 50. This is going to be the final match we see for Sting. 99.5% sure. There's always that percent that tells you could come back and have another match at some point. But for now, this is the setup. And if this is the final time you're going to see Sting wrestling inside of a professional wrestling ring, then should he go out a winner or should he go out losing to the Young Bucks to put all the heat on the Young Bucks in this heel run that they're on now? They come back. These are the characters they've gone with, and they're really embracing, being the people that everyone loves to hate and all of this other stuff. Does that just add a layer now where this takes that to another level? I mean, certainly it would, right? Because, again, you want to talk about there will be, I don't know if backlash is necessarily the right word. There will be some of that if the Young Bucks win because people will be pissed off that Sting didn't get maybe his rightful due going out as a champion, all this other stuff. But, there is also the aspect to it where it would take, again, the heat, quote unquote, to another level, right? It would take this thing up a notch for the Young Bucks moving forward, who are not retiring, and they will be continuing on in AEW as a big featured part of AEW television every single week. And so, do you take advantage of that by giving them the win, and then they have that to use anytime they want to use it moving forward? They're the team that beat Sting in his final match ever in a legendary career, one of the best to ever do it. They were the ones who can say they retired Sting, even though we know it's a retirement match, and we knew he's going to retire whether he wins or loses, but they can certainly use that moving forward, and it would be perfect probably for these particular characters that they're using to have that at their disposal, right? So that's the one way you could do it. Of course, the other way is that, again, there will be some backlash, and you already know that going in if the Young Bucks win. But is it a bad kind of backlash? Is it a situation where, ultimately we look at this and we're like, all right, there's a little too much backlash potentially if you have Sting lose in his final match and it is to the Bucks, which also, and again, we're saying this knowing that there's all sorts of comments out there. You guys know, if you're watching this, there's a strong opinion on the Young Bucks on this way. There's a strong opinion on the other way. Some people love them, some people hate them. And so the fact that they're even in Sting's final match is already, causing issues with some people. And knowing that this is the match that they ultimately decided on for Sting. And of course, we've heard the reports that Sting was the one who wanted this to be the case, where you have the Bucks in the final match. It's set up. I didn't ever think it was going to be a singles match. So you always knew kind of it was going to be a tag match with Sting and Darby. If you could have done this in a perfect scenario, of course, I'm sure it's like, okay, if Sting would have thought he could pull it off, sure, you could have done Sting versus Darby. That may have been the final perfect sort of send-off. But it wasn't to be, and you have aligned these two forever, essentially, since Sting has been there. So you just keep going this direction, and now you have the Bucks playing up these new characters that they're in, and they're the ones who are in this match. And again, that's already caused some issues with some people. They don't want to see the Bucks anywhere near Sting's final match. That's one opinion. But also, I mean, it is Sting, right? You're talking about the icon here. Someone who, has done anything and everything in the world of professional wrestling at this point. And do you want to give him, again, the ultimate send-off where he retires as a champion? There is something to that, too. Now, you can't really use that weekly on TV as part of angles and storylines and all that. It just kind of, again, not necessarily goes away after this match, but that's as far as you can take it, right? Sting wins. Well, he's not coming back the following week to defend the tag team championships. We know that. So does AEW go the route where he retires champions? Maybe Darby is able to get another, teammate. I don't know if that works out well, because then it's like, well, how does whoever he picks compare to Sting? That's not going to work out. Do you vacate the belts? What kind of situation does that put Darby in, where he's like, okay, I just did all this for Sting, and he retires, and now I got to give up my championship. So there's a little bit of interesting kind of dynamic involved there. Could you really make it that simple to where Darby's just going to give up the tag team championship if they win and Sting retires and he doesn't have a partner? Is Darby forced to give up the title? Maybe that's part of the storyline moving forward. And again, maybe there's another partner that you guys have in mind. I've seen some names being mentioned out there. People have talked about, okay, we just sub this person in for Sting and all that. We'll see how it plays out, but I think it's interesting to look at here and wonder what's the best direction you could do it. I mean, the old school wrestling fan in me, I will tell you, the old school wrestling fan, and I think old school fans of wrestling, slash bookers, promoters, all this other stuff, we know what they would do here, right? That they would absolutely go, this isn't even a debate. The Young Bucks are winning this match, and they are going to have the heat carrying forward of being the people who took away Sting's final sort of big moment in professional wrestling by defeating him for the championship. Maybe they give him, the double super kick, everything, right? Like everything that you could see visually they can use as heels now moving forward. Like they would do that 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. Like that's what old school bookers and promoters would do. They would 100% let the Bucks win this match and then carry that moving forward and be able to use that, right? But it's a little bit different situation here in terms of like, I don't know, will Tony Khan be willing to do that, knowing that Sting is one of the biggest signings from just a visual standpoint. Again, it's Sting, right? One of the biggest signings AEW's ever had, just from what it means to have Sting and be able to, again, use him, like it or not, much better than the WWE. WWE just did not take advantage of what they had with Sting. And we know the injury played a factor in that too, but, it even goes back to the WrestleMania match with Triple H, all this other stuff. It just, it always felt like WWE was going to view Sting as just he was part of the competition. He was WCW's guy. He was never going to be our guy, and we're going to kind of treat him as such. And so AEW has done a really good job, I think, of putting Sting in the right positions to succeed. They've never kind of made it to where, all right, we're going to put all this on Sting, where at whatever age he is going to have to go out and have 20-minute singles matches. They've never gone that route. And so I think, with all the nostalgia, everything that came back in that final closing segment on Dynamite, now, again, we ask the question, will Sting win his final match on Sunday at AEW Revolution against the Young Bucks? Does Tony Khan, is he going to go the old school route of having the Young Bucks win this thing? Or do Sting and Darby, just when you think maybe the Bucks are going to win the match, do Sting and Darby have something left in them? You get maybe the closing shot of Sting putting someone in the Scorpion Deathlock, and maybe that's how this match finishes. Sting goes out a champion, and then you go on to either do, again, you get another partner for Darby. I don't know if that's the route they go, or Maybe there's a situation where you do a tournament, all this other stuff, which, again, AEW, I know people make the jokes. AEW has no issue doing tournaments, but that's something they could do in this scenario. So different options available for AEW going into this big match, which will headline AEW Revolution. I don't think there's any question about that. Sting's final match, everything has been built towards this. I know there's a world title match, but I don't know how you couldn't do this last. Unless you are going to do the Young Bucks winning, then maybe, I don't know, maybe that's not the visual you want to close off that particular pay-per-view. But it's interesting. I'd love to know what you guys think. Will Sting win his final match at AEW Revolution? Sting and Darby Allin defending the AEW Tag Team titles against the Young Bucks. Who will win? Who should win? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always enjoy talking wrestling with you guys. Hit that subscribe button. We'll have a lot more coverage here. I know we've done a lot of WWE stuff recently, but hey, we're tapped into AEW. We're going to do kind of a lot of stuff surrounding AEW Revolution. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Let me know what you think about Sting's final match, and will he get the win and retire as a champion?